So, there is not a second to be wasted in the training pitch. So, I think for all concerned, I think it would just be, it would certainly calm everyone down if Rangers could just get a couple of bodies in, certainly before Monday, if not sooner.
I think, Andy, in terms of Russell Martin's position, I think there's an onus on the board, the new board, they have to do everything that they possibly can in order to help him, because they have to understand, if they don't already, then somebody should have been telling them that Russell Martin is the guy that ultimately will have to front all this up. He's the guy that a big section of Rangers supporters weren't keen on his appointment in the first place. And he's the guy that's almost got two hands tied behind his back at this stage. I've written today, and I don't know if you'd agree with this, Andy, but it almost feels already at this point, in order for him to achieve the sort of success I think he'll need to achieve next season to get another go at this in 12 months' time, somewhere between a magician and a miracle worker is required. Because I think that's how difficult this situation is for him.
Yeah, I mean, I did say last time, a couple of weeks ago when I was on, that I felt, rightly or wrongly, no, that's acceptable or not, this new board are going to have to show some resilience in the next 12 months of things. I still think it's a major ask for Rangers to be winning league titles next year. I think that's, especially where they are now, from a standing start.
They need to be competitive, Andy.
Yeah, the competitive is one thing, but to be winning titles, I think the Rangers fans will give them a period of grace as long as there is, as you say, signs of development, signs of progress. But the thing is that this Rangers board have to get out of the cycle, that rinse and repeat that you're talking about. The previous board felt, guilty of doing time and time again, because by just doing these knee-jerk reactions, any time there's 2 or 3 bad results, a manager's under pressure. That's how you get into this cycle of one bad signing being, followed by another. They need to get out of this. They need to have a period of steady progress, steady building. The Rangers squad right now is the culmination of 4 or 5 managers.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's not a sense of style to it. There's not a sense of a uniform nature of it. It's a patchwork, lineup effectively. So they need to get out of that. I think we discussed this last time we were on the change in title that Russell Martin's got. He's the head coach. He's not the manager. They've made it pretty clear that he's going to have a role to play in recruitment, but that is not going to be his. He's not going to have the major say, so he's going to have a voice in it, but he's just going to be a voice amongst the discussion. I think what they're trying to do is take as much of the outside noise, outside responsibility, and just allow him to coach the players that he has. But I just think that also allows him that when fingers do get pointed, if a signing comes in and doesn't hit the ground, he can rightly sit and go, well, I was only a part of the discussion. It wasn't done in my ultimate say-so. So I think that is it could be a wise thing in his part, but I think we've seen him before when he was at Swansea. I think he had frustrations over the way that recruitment was done there, and he ended up there was an infamous sort of press conference he held where he came in flanked by his assistants, where he sort of had a pot back at the people above him and sort of tried to redirect the sort of blame in their way. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes out. But I think what the new regime are doing is try to take as much of the pressure and the expectation levels off his shoulders and just allow him to go and coach the team.
I like that. I'm all for modernisation, but I do feel, and I think that Rangers have been particularly guilty of this over the last period, Andy, the lack of accountability. People are looking at players saying, who signed him? Everybody shrugs their shoulders if it's a good one, and everybody puts their hands up. Everybody shrugs their shoulders if it's a bad one, and everybody puts their hands up when it's a good one. And wants to, I think accountability is no bad thing. I do understand the way the game's changing. I'm not sure, I think if you were a manager or a head coach going into that position, you'd want to be, have a real heavy say in, the guys that you're being given to work with. Interesting. Obviously, the profiles of some of the guys that we've been looking at already, thinking of Max Aaron in particular, looks like a guy that obviously Russell Martin will have a good knowledge of from down south. But that's taken an interesting twist today, hasn't it? That the suggestion being from down south that that Bournemouth would far rather, and for obvious reasons, prefer a permanent sale rather than another loan deal for him. And we discussed last night, Andy, Leeds United have been quoted with an interest in him and a potential bid for £7 million. And that's really interesting as well, if it's a shared database that they're using, looking at players that fit the sort of style of football that obviously the 49ers want to see implemented. Obviously, they must believe that this boy fits into it because he's now been linked with the two clubs. And you wonder in this sort of situation, because Leeds have got a great deal more to spend than Rangers. £7 million, is that too much for a Rangers signing this summer?
I can't see Rangers spending £7 million on a right back. I mean, as crucial as James Tavernier's been to the team, he's captain. You know, I still imagine, he's had a difficult season, but I still expect him to be starting the season. So you're saying they're going to spend £7 million on a guy that, at this moment in time, probably guaranteed to be playing every week. I'm not sure that that's where the money needs to be spent. I think there's more pressing areas of the team. Certainly, maybe up front, certainly midfield. Definitely, they also need probably two centre backs, another goalkeeper. I mean, Rangers need strengthened 1 to 11 basically. So, are they really going to go and spend what we believe, a third of this £20 million that the 49ers are going to put in, and they're going to spend that on a right back? I'm just not sure. In terms of Bournemouth saying we want a permanent deal over a loan, of course they do. They want the money now. Max Aarons, he's obviously had a handful of appearances for Bournemouth. I watched one of the sort of YouTube compilation clips today. Looks great. They're always doing these clips, these things that you see put up. They always show you the highlights rather than the lowlights. I was
going to say, we look good on YouTube, but then I'm not sure.
So, yeah, I mean, he looks a decent player. Looks very similar to James Tavernier in terms of that sort of pacey right back that sort of likes to dribble the ball and drive into space. But I think Bournemouth, I think he went to Valencia last year, didn't have the greatest of times, only played again a handful of games over there. So yeah, they'll basically want the money so they can move him on, not have to worry about him sort of clogging up their squad. Does a loan really suit them? Especially, you don't imagine Rangers will be covering all of his wages, Premier League wages down there. So I'm not so sure, unless somebody comes in with a bid, I'm not sure that's something Rangers need to be worried about. If they believe that they can get him on loan and the player wants to come and there's not much competition elsewhere, he'll come here on loan. If that's the only offer on the table for Bournemouth, that'll be the one that they take.
Just playing devil's advocate here, what do you think the reaction would be, guys, if Leeds bought him for £7 million and then loaned him to Rangers?
It's an interesting prospect.
Yeah.
I can imagine there's a few folk would have something to say, perhaps across the other side of the city.